With us in studio is Sally Doty, the director of the state's Broadband office. I should know this, Sally, but remind me what BEAM stands for. I know the B is broadband.
It's important to have a good acronym, Lucien. You know
agree.
this in state government.
100%.
You got to have it. All right. It is Broadband Expansion and Accessibility of Mississippi.
There we go. Tell us a little bit, and I know you've done this before, but explain a little bit what your office does. Y'all are certainly, like Lance and I were discussing, y'all have been very busy.
We've been extremely busy. So this is the first state broadband office we've had in Mississippi. Before this time, it's kind of been different grant programs have been in different state agencies. And so this kind of brings everything together because at the time our agency was created, there was the anticipation of some extremely large federal awards coming out. And so the feds had really put out their request for each state to have a broadband agency. And I think Mississippi and Alaska, we might have been the tail end of states getting that together. But we are have been there for 2 years now. We work under the Department of Finance and Administration. They do all of our back end accounting and stuff like that. So we're very appreciative to them for their assistance.
And it looks like if y'all already awarded about $100 million, is that?
Yeah, we have.
Wow.
So we were administering a $32 million grant that my office had applied for. Previously, I was at the public utilities staff, and there was a telecom division there, and we'd awarded $75 million of CARES Act funding there. And then we applied for this $32 million broadband grant, moved that over when we started the broadband office, and kept administering that, and then moved into some ARPA funding, which is the Capital Projects Fund. It is $162 million of money that is designated for broadband expansion, and we have right at I think close to $100 million awarded in that. We have another round of funding to kind of finish up the remainder of that. I think it may close sometime this week. Maybe today, that grant. For a provider out there, I'm sorry I don't have those deadlines in front of me. Check your email. We've been sending out email updates, but that round 2 of funding closes up pretty soon. And we also did a round of funding for a smaller round for some public Wi-Fi access.
Okay.
And we didn't have a whole lot of response to that. So it does require a provider, an internet service provider, to apply for that. So if any of my providers are listening out there, we're going to run another round of it to try to get some more interest in that funding stream.
And so that the public Wi-Fi would be just providing Wi-Fi in public spaces for people who weren't necessarily subscribers?
Yeah, really in public spaces. Like I think we had a couple for some park areas or a downtown area or something like that. It's not your main source of Wi-Fi. It's not your home Wi-Fi. You're not going to be able to, stream your Netflix on it. But it just gives you that access when you're in a public location.
It's amazing how things have changed because now if you get to a place that for whatever whether it's because of some sort of technical issue or you've got an issue with your phone, I mean it's tough to operate without access to good internet.
We do everything on our phones now, and cell service is okay a lot of times, but that Wi-Fi is just kind of a different level. That high-speed internet, it gives you a different capability. We do everything on our phones now. We shop, we call an Uber, maybe not in rural Mississippi, but
but still,
yeah, you depend on it, and so access to high-speed internet is just so important now. And really, Lucien, what we are doing is building for the future, because there's some studies out there that talk about how broadband usage has grown exponentially, over the past few years, and it's going to continue to do that. Just think about how much more it's integrated into your daily life now than it was even a couple of years ago. So just imagine what we're looking at 5-10 years down the road, and so that is what our office is doing, hoping to build out this high-speed capability with some technology that we think is the most long-lasting, because over the years we've had a lot of different technologies that come out, and by the time you get to the end of the grant program, that's obsolete. And this program that we're running right now, the BEAD program, which is the largest funding, really relies on fiber, and that's what we will be using throughout the state.
And that is the fastest technology now, or I guess the one of the fastest technologies? Huh?
There. I think different people would debate that, right?
Okay.
And I think
I'm not
there's
gonna get you in the middle of that.
I don't want to be in the middle of that. But this largest grant program that we're running, and also the Capital Projects Fund requires fiber in places where it is economically feasible. Now, if there is an extremely high-cost location, we've been really working on mapping the state and showing where all these locations are. And, if there's a house down the road by itself, and, I think we have 4 residential locations. I got to check out on this. I need my coast friends to help me that show up out on Cat Island. I don't know about that. But anyway. So if there's a high-cost location like that where it would be just crazy to run fiber, we will use alternative technologies. And the feds just came out with some new guidance on that and perhaps how to use Starlink. You were just talking about Elon Musk.
Right.
So we're working on all those types of things as we get ready for this extremely large round of funding.
And is the goal to get to the point, and we may be approaching it now, but is the goal to get to the point where you can get high-speed internet anywhere in the state of Mississippi?
Yes, that is our charge with the BEAD. It kind of sounds like our agency name, but it's a little different acronym. BEAD is that $1.2 billion amount of funding that has been allocated to the state of Mississippi. Now, it's not sitting in our bank account, but it has been allocated to our state, and we are working through the different steps to release that funding. But the requirement of that funding is to provide universal service to every residential location throughout the state of Mississippi.
Which is, to my mind, a big change in mindset, because even a decade ago, you would have thought there are just some places that aren't going to get high-speed internet because you're too far out. But now it's not a luxury. It's like having electricity.
It really is, and I think the build-out of electricity took about 20 years, and we're going to do this in about 4 or 5 years.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's an exciting thing to be a part of. It's such a great opportunity, it seems to me, for a place like Mississippi where you do have a much, I would say, higher quality of life, certainly a lower cost of living than a lot of places. The ability to come here and have, I was talking to some people the other day who were not, who were working outside of Mississippi but had a Mississippi connection, who moved back during COVID, and all of their work is out of state, but they live here and enjoy all of the wonderful things about being able to live in Mississippi, the sort of small town life that it offers. But that's only possible because they've got access to super high-speed internet that isn't available everywhere.
That's right. We've talked to people who have been involved, who have benefited from these grant programs, and exactly that. Folks who've moved home to live on some family land and kind of enjoy that lifestyle, and they're able to keep their remote jobs. And, I did not realize when you're applying for a remote job, often they require a speed test. So you have to prove that you have the internet capability to have that position. So we want to make sure that everybody in the state of Mississippi has that high-speed internet capability so they can participate in this, digital economy that's out there. It doesn't matter if you're sometimes if you're sitting at your kitchen table or sitting in an office, you can get that same work done. So it's an exciting time.
That's interesting about the speed test, because now it really is. I mean, it's an expectation. I was on a conference call yesterday, or it was a video call like they all are now, and left the house because I had to go run an errand and was still participating. But the cell service, when I got away from the Wi-Fi, wasn't strong enough to support it. And 4 years ago, before the pandemic, I think you could kind of get away with that. Now, that's sort of unheard. I mean, you come across as very unprofessional if you don't have access to that.
Yeah, you do. And, this is really a new way that we do business, right? Used to you went face-to-face to all of those meetings, and now we just hop on a video call, but you still are expected as like you said, a level of professionalism to have your screen up, be there, so you can really connect with the other people, and it requires more bandwidth, more speed.
So are most of these, and we've got about 30 seconds before the break, but so if we need to get some of this afterwards, curious how much of it is focused on increasing speed and capacity versus build out, or maybe it's some of both of those areas where there's no service versus making it improving the service that's out there.
So these grants cover, number one, we have to show that we can get unserved areas. And when I talk about unserved or underserved, it's a speed.
Okay.
It is not just, they don't have access to a grocery store or transportation. No. It is a speed that we are looking at. And so we can talk about it more, but, we know we've got to have hard and fast data as we do this build out.
Well, you got time for another segment, Sam?
I do.
Well, y'all, this is Lucien Smith in for Paul Gallo here on the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk Mississippi. Stick with us for more with Sally Doty of Mississippi's Broadband office. Talk Mississippi. With us in studio is Sally Doty, the head of Mississippi's Beam office. That's the Broadband Access office. Talking a little bit about remote work, but if you've got questions for Senator Doty or comments, feel free to send us a text at the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. I am told by the C Spire text line that there is an accident on Highway 49 in Richland in the northbound lane, so there may be a few people who are switching to remote work or at least getting awfully stressed right now. But just FYI, if you're getting on 49 headed north near Richland, traffic appears to be backed up. Well, y'all made an announcement yesterday, correct, about some specific projects that were funded?
I'm not exactly sure
Okay.
what you're talking about. Are you talking about the $1.2 billion? That's kind of a continuing announcement. We received that allocation or the word that we were going to get that much money from Mississippi. Mississippi is in one of the top 15 states for funding under BEAD. We really got that word last year, and we've been working through different steps, as I said, to try to unlock that funding. And we have finally kind of reached a pivotal step. So we had to present a 5-year plan to the feds. We've had to develop a challenge process that we're closing actually today. Our challenge process closes. And so there have been different things we've had to do as we've marched towards really the opportunity to get these projects built out. And we have a few more steps to go. We will be working with our providers to do some pre-qualification for our applications, so they can go ahead and submit some information to us ahead of time. So our compliance and monitoring folks can check that off. Do you have this? Do you have that? Give us your papers from the Secretary of State so we can make sure you're a real business. So things like that we're going to do ahead of time this fall. We will also be finalizing our project areas since we are finishing up our challenge process. This challenge process has been, and I've been on to talk about it before, it's been an opportunity for local governments, providers, and nonprofits to come in and say, hey, this shows as served on your map, but it's really not. Now, areas that are unserved and underserved, we know that. We've got that listed on our map. Really, that challenge process has been about areas that a provider has reported service to the FCC, and it shows on the map, but the individual says, that is not my actual experience. I'm not getting that speed. So that challenge process has allowed us the opportunity to gather that information. And then what we will do is compile our final map. We have a third-party adjudicator that's going to come in and review all those challenges for us, some real great technical folks with a really great background. And we went through a very long and excruciating state procurement process to get them, but we have them on board now, and so they will adjudicate those challenges. Then we will have our final listing of locations. So, this is different than broadband grants in the past, where perhaps a provider would draw a circle around a place and say, okay, we're going to serve these locations, this area. This is different. We've gone down to a different level of data. We now have an address for every location in the state of Mississippi. Now, I thought that already existed somewhere. It really did not. So we have put together that map. I think we have about 1.3 residential addresses in the state of Mississippi. And actually, we've identified a lot of addresses that are not on the map through some meter data and working with our utility providers. So we're working with the FCC to get those even added to the map. We had thousands added at the beginning of this. We did some bulk challenges with the FCC, our office did. So we had thousands of addresses added, but we've really become aware, working with Congressman Thompson's office, that there are some other addresses that are missing, and working with Congressman Thompson and then Delta Electric, who's building out in the Delta. So, we've still got some work to do on the map, but we will have our final list of eligible addresses, draw our project areas from that, and work through this pre-qualification process with some of our providers, open our application process, we hope, right after the first of the year.
And these would be addresses that are underserved or unserved or some combination of the two?
Mm-hmm. Unserved or underserved. And unserved is, if you're totally unserved, it's below 25 down and 3 up. And then if you are underserved, it's kind of odd the way they do it. The level of service that's required is our grants have to provide 100 down and 20 up. So if you're between that 100 down, 20 up and the 25 down, 3 up, that little area, then you are underserved.
Okay.
So if you look at our map, and I would encourage everyone to look at our broadband map, there is just so much information on there. In fact, we had somebody called in the office, I think it was yesterday, who said, oh my goodness, I looked at the map, I was griping about my provider, and I found out there was another provider. So that information is on our map. It's all collected by the FCC, and we've incorporated into our map. So if you look at our map, it shows not only your status, but it shows also what providers have reported to the FCC. We serve that location and what that speed is.
And to find that map, where would people go?
Just go to our agency website,
Okay.
BEAM, BEAM, beam.ms.gov. I think you can just probably Beam, Mississippi, search it, and it'll come up, and it says go to the map. Click it, and you can go right to our map.
Okay. Wouldn't expect you to know the specific number off the top of your head, but are there a lot of people in Mississippi who are currently underserved on this front?
There are. So we think in Mississippi, we again are working those final numbers right now with the conclusion of our challenge process, but it looks like to us there are about 100,000 that are totally unserved, and then about between 20 and 30,000 that are underserved.
Okay.
And, that not having, sometimes when you have almost, it's just as frustrating. But, those areas that are underserved, it's a mandate to reach them as well.
And it's got to be limiting. I mean, we were talking about this off the air. Not having access to high-speed internet has to be limiting for people who are looking for jobs.
It is, and it's, as you mentioned earlier, it's, it's unprofessional, it's difficult. You just, now in today's age, you've got to have access to high-speed internet. It's a non-negotiable.
I wonder what sort of opportunities this presents to Mississippi's small towns. The ability to have people who might now be either out of state or in a larger metropolitan area who could move to small town Mississippi with all the pluses to that, but still keep a job because of what y'all are doing.
Yeah, I'm such an advocate for small town life in Mississippi. I live in Brookhaven, just an hour south of Jackson, and life is great in a small town. It's a little bit slower, there's not as much traffic, and yet if you have high-speed internet, you can still connect with your office, you can be on video calls and meetings and really take care of business. So I think that this connectivity is really going to be the answer for some of the problems that we have as Mississippi as a more rural state. We need those rural areas. We need our agriculture industry to thrive, and they need access to high-speed internet. I was talking to one group, I think it was out in sweet potato country, and they were talking about, this now gave the ability for their processing house to like do some of the bookkeeping, write the checks, do the things they needed to do, where in the past they had to take that to town and do it in different ways. So also there's so many different and I can't name them. I'm learning about all of this, but so many opportunities in precision agriculture where there can be sensors that are out in the field that rely on some high-speed internet to sense temperature or moisture and different things. So it really will help in those areas. We're going to do a partnership with Mississippi State University with the Extension Office and have some focus on precision ag. And so I'm really looking forward to learning a little bit more about that myself.
It's fascinating what y'all are doing. I'm sure, obviously you had a strong background on the utility side. It's got to be I bet you've learned a lot about the technology behind the internet and Wi-Fi.
I tell people, my background is not necessarily technology at all. And in fact, the joke at our office is that, I need an individual grant for myself to get me updated. And, I've got a great team at the Beam office. They are all much younger than I am, because I think that is the future, and they have all great ideas, and it's coming, and we've got to be prepared for the future, and we've got to prepare our workforce and our kids for the future so they can thrive.
Yeah. Well, Sally, thank you for being with us, and thanks for all you're doing for Beam and for the state. It's exciting stuff.
Thank you. Everybody go look at our map.
There we go.
Great.
Y'all, this is Lucien Smith in for Paul Gallo here on the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk, Mississippi.